But let's talk about one stock now that is in the news, Biocon. In fact, we've invited the management of Biocon, Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw, on our channel to talk about the fact that Biocon Foundation has received the Asia Best CSR Practice Award 2014. But of course, we'll be talking about many other fundamental developments as well. Kiran, hi, good morning, and congratulations on receiving this award. If I can just start off by asking you about the NPPA standoff. You know, we had you speaking with Shireen a couple of weeks ago on the issue and the impact it would have on the pharma sector as a whole. What's the status currently on that, and what kind of an impact would it have on the sector?
Well, you know, I've been overseas until yesterday, so I'm not very updated on what's happening on that front. But I haven't heard any progress on that front other than the fact that I know that IPA members did, take this to the court, and I know that the court has asked for a hearing later in September, but there is no stay on the matter. So I think the issue is really about the formula used to arrive at a price ceiling. And I, for one, believe that really this is what the issue is about. Because I think, having a price ceiling per se is not of grave concern, but I think it is about how do you arrive at the price ceiling is really something that will, impact the industry as a whole. So I'm not very clear on what progress has been made, but I do hope
the reason I asked you
an engagement with the government to resolve this standoff.
Sure. The reason I asked, Kiran, is because I understand you had written an open letter to the PMO regarding the unilateral fixing of prices. Did you get any response to that letter?
Unfortunately, not as yet. Okay. So I have not yet heard from the PMO, and I remain, sort of optimistic that some, discussions and engagement will happen with industry, because this is a very vital industry for the country. And this is one industry that has attained global leadership almost on its own, because, it has had very little support in terms of incentives from the government and so on and so forth. So this is a sector that is almost entirely self-funded and self-perpetuated. So I really believe that this is a sector that really needs investment, really needs support, and I do hope the government does not neglect this very, very important sector.
I'm getting a sense that they're constructively engaging with you at an administrative level?
Well, I think, there are various issues which plague this particular sector. I think investment and innovation are the two key drivers of this sector, and I really believe that there needs to be a very close partnership between industry and government. And I think this, as you know, is one of the most complexly regulated sectors. Which really needs simplification. So if the government really is talking about simplification, I think the pharmaceutical sector is one sector that really needs to be simplified.
Okay. Fair enough. Let me come to some Biocon-specific issues. We understand that you are engaging with potential partners to out-license your itolizumab. I mean, okay, alzumab is a better way to pronounce that word. I think your arthritis drug, basically. What's the progress? Should we hear from you on this count quickly?
Well, I think we are having several very important discussions, and at this stage I'm not able to share much with you. Apart from the fact that, we are, very encouraged with many of the discussions we are having. And I think this is a very important drug because it's a first-in-class drug globally, and I think it has huge value potential.
Okay. In the quarter gone by, Kiran, one of the things that disappointed some of your investors was the way your biopharma business saw a slip of around 3.5%. Do you think this business could be impacted further because of one of your key drugs, fidaxomicin, being withdrawn by Cubist Pharma?
It's not withdrawn. It is being relaunched, and I think it's just taking a little longer to basically come up to speed. So I think from that point of view, there is going to be some impact from fidaxomicin. But remember, we have many, many other cylinders firing for us. So we don't expect to be impacted hugely by the slowdown in fidaxomicin uptake. And I think if you look at it, I think our biopharma business has a number of diversified offerings. And I think every one of them is in a position to deliver the kind of growth we hope to be accruing on an annualized basis.
Okay. Can you bring us up to speed on all the insulin issues? The Malaysian plant, when does it come up? When does your capacity expand? Should we see it in FY15 in the subsequent quarters? As well, your human oral insulin, IN 105, if I'm not mistaken, the trial, and when do you see that getting into the next regulatory filing?
So to answer your question, Lata, the Malaysian facility is on track. We are commissioning the facility later this year, but in terms of actual operational possibilities, it will only happen next fiscal, because you need regulatory clearance before you can really start commercializing that operation. So I think you are not likely to see the positive impact from the Malaysia facility until next fiscal. But having said that, we are trying to basically do whatever we can to basically up the capacity of the Bangalore facility, and through a small effort. So you are likely to see a small kind of capacity expansion in Bangalore. We're just trying to do everything possible to see how we can pull out all stops to increase capacity, because we are capacity strapped at the moment for insulin. But on the other hand, I think we do expect to see a good contribution from Malaysia starting next fiscal. When it comes to IN 105, again, this is a program, as you know, we've been very badly impacted by this moratorium on clinical trials in India. So we have had to do a lot of this clinical work in the US, and I'm glad to say that things are moving on track, and by the end of this fiscal we should have some readout on these initial set of clinical trials that have some very important questions that will be answered around this molecule.
So do you think your R&D expenses could go up this year, Kiran? Because in FY14, I think it stood at about 6% on an average. What can we expect in FY15?
Well, as you know, Sonia, this particular, the pipeline that we have is really sort of advancing very rapidly into the clinic. And I think it obviously indicates that R&D spends will and are likely to go up. So I think, yes, I think the R&D spends will go up, including this fiscal. But having said that, I think we are also seeing licensing income, coming into the fore and helping to defray a lot of those R&D expenses. And moreover, I think some of these R&D expenses are beginning to get capitalized. So it's having some kind of a balancing effect in terms of our P&L in that respect.
Okay. Kiran, you wear another hat, and there is this one big ghost of a doubt that is sitting in the minds of investors in Infosys. Your take as an important member of that board, do you think that the demand for buyback could expand to the majority shareholders, could impact the decision making of the board? How does that decision pan out from here on?
First and foremost, Lata, I really don't want to comment on these kind of issues. But suffice to say that I think the board and the new CEO is well versed with what it needs to do in terms of the utilization of funds or cash that's sitting in Infosys books. I think it is not right for external comments to basically try and influence what needs to be done. So I think from this point of view, the CEO has just taken over. I think there is the board, which is very, very responsible and very well versed with what needs to be done. And I think you need to basically let the board and the new CEO find what it needs to do, what's best for the business. So I really believe that, various people will have different opinions of what needs to be done. But I think this is something that needs to be left to the new CEO and the board to decide.
But that's why I'm asking the key member of the board. Did any other shareholder, sympathize with this demand?
Well, not to my knowledge, Lata. I mean, there have been some voices coming into the press, but I really don't think this is about a shareholder or a group of shareholders. I think every organization needs to do what's best for the business.
Yes.
And there are many other ways to utilize cash in the books. I think Infosys is very capable of deciding what it needs to do. I think the board is very capable of deciding on that. And I think that's all I can say as a board member.
Okay, that's actually very well explained. Thank you for that. But just one final question, Kiran, on, we go over this like a broken record, but I'm still going to ask you anyway on the listing of Syngene and whether there is any clarity on the timeline of that, if you could elaborate.
We remain committed to listing Syngene. That's all I can say at this point in time. As soon as we are ready to, start the process, I can assure you, you will be the first ones to know. So I think you'll have to sort of basically be a bit more patient.
No, I agree, but actually the markets are in a very benign state and they are particularly partial to well-run pharma companies. So is this the best time? Should we hear of this before the quarter ends?
Well, Lata, I'm not going to be drawn into making any comments. All I can say is just wait and be patient.
Okay, you assure us that we will be the first ones to know, but we assure you that we will be the first ones to call you when the news comes out.